You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
To another episode of the Red Moon Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host, Sean Sebastian. And
head hole.
He found his head hole.
Head hole.
He did. We were looking for it before the show began. Well, he was. He didn't know where his head was.
Where's your head at? Take off her head.
Creepiest things ever in cinema.
It used to scare the crap out of me when I was a kid.
We got a ton of news tonight.
I like it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like insane how much just dropped. I mean, obviously we're going to be talking about some Iger and Chapek controversy.
I think that's very interesting.
I just couldn't believe that when that came down.
But you can't ignore the biggest news, man.
It's all over.
You're all over the place.
Well, your head hole.
Antics. Yeah. I was just say they're the biggest news to drop that everybody wants to know about. Benifer is back.
Yeah. Benifer is official. Wedded bliss.
They got hitched.
I'm telling you, like Johnny and June.
Taco flavored kisses.
What was it I saw? I think I saw a quote from Jennifer. She said, "Love is patient." That's it. That was it. Yeah. I was like, okay.
She wouldn't add the longest kind.
Saying.
I was like, and just screw Jennifer Garner.
She's got plenty of the taco flavored kisses. It's an old South Park joke from when they were together the first time. So it's like,
and heck, even just today, I was looking at like the last few things that we all sent each other. Just so much news. Freaking Netflix trying to.
Oh, the $3.
They're actually going to now allow in Latin America. They're testing it. Mm-hmm. But they're going to allow people to pay $3 more additional.
Mm-hmm. Whoever you share, basically,
if
like for us on our parents, like they would pay their subscription account, and then there'd be $3 extra for me to use it since I don't live with them.
That's just crazy.
It is crazy.
That's just crazy.
It's cray.
And then we got Rob Zombie's The Monsters heading to Netflix. Yeah. Netflix bought that.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, so they can charge you that $3 that you're going to share it with everybody.
I was really excited when I saw the teaser. I was like, "Oh, this looks legitimate. He's trying to honor it." And then they dropped the full trailer, and it just looked like. I mean, granted, I know the original show is supposed to be campy and hokey, but this looks like bad caricature.
Isn't hokey? Isn't that part of the? Oh no, that's the Addams Family.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah. No, I mean, they are supposed to be campy, but it almost looks like a bad parody.
This one didn't look too bad until I heard Herman Munster's voice.
Yeah, it's
just not as deep as I was hoping for it to be.
I will say, I know all three of them are the actors that are in all of his movies. I don't know them by name except for Sherry Moon, his wife. Yeah. But I will say the guy playing Grandpa Munster, I thought he actually seemed pretty spot on. But yeah, Herman and Sherry Moon, I thought she was pretty bad
good
too. No, I thought
she was okay. She was all right.
I don't like it.
I maybe it's just because I'm not a Munsters fan, but Herman Munster was always the one that was only because of him being the grandfather from Pet Sematary.
Yes.
And I just remember that iconic. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's got that just deep voice.
And I could be jumping the gun. Like, it's just a trailer. I told Brandon, I felt like all the jokes just seemed so fast paced and nothing settles. Like there was actually some wit in the Munster. It wasn't all just slapstick. Mm-hmm. But it could just be the trailer.
Yeah,
it's hard to
judge. Throwing all the comedic stuff together. Yeah.
And then Sean, you even sent us one of the A24s heading to HBO Max, a crap ton of their stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just like
August of next year.
I like
what it said.
Yeah, was it? Yeah, I believe it was.
Next year? It's not this year?
Let me look at it.
I thought it was.
I just had the headline pulled up too. I guess the reason I'm just throwing out
August 2022.
So it is this year.
Okay. And there's some good ones on there. I haven't seen a lot of them, which is also good because that gives me things to see. So we'll see.
And just talking about all this streaming. I mean, I saw a meme today. It was kind of funny that it was like flip a coin. For Netflix, it was like could be the best movie you've ever seen, or it could make you want to give up your subscription. So I was like, that is true.
That's
it's
Netflix.
50-50, yeah. Yep. So I especially thought that was a little bit relevant considering the Munsters are now headed to Netflix. Yeah. So that gives us a little insight as to
it. And Tim Burton's Addams Family Project Wednesday are both airing in October. So it's like they got they were competitors head to head in the past. So now Netflix has them both. Addams
Netflix
Family
is like
Munsters.
we got Halloween covered.
Yeah.
We just need Hubie Halloween 2. Okay.
Yes, I would watch that. Please, I would watch that.
I would too. But I guess the whole reason I just got a vomit of news there at the top was because I really just didn't want to talk about the movie that we're reviewing.
That's the thing. We have the major headlines we'll definitely talk about. The Netflix stuff and the Munster stuff, I think we covered it well enough just in this icebreaker. But yeah, I think we are mostly just stalling for time because...
Here comes the part of the show.
I mean, it's not even been 10. Technically, we have a full 10 minutes before we have to get to the...
I say we get it over with. Because
like a Band-Aid.
Rip it off.
This is, again, like so many times...
a masterpiece. This is what everybody... Listen, 6 minutes standing ovation. Everybody's supposed to...
I thought it was 10.
I thought so. No, it was 6. I Googled it.
Yeah.
Okay.
There were some walkouts, but mostly it got the 6 minute standing ovation. That's what they want you to focus on. It got that.
Well, of course, because the some that walked out just obviously didn't understand it.
They were ignorant, yeah.
Well, and truth be told...
I would have stayed and watched the whole thing. It was like 2 Girls, 1 Cup. You just can't. You can't stop
it's
watching.
A train wreck.
You can't stop watching the poop, man. You can't stop watching it.
Oh, that's what you were watching.
It's
yeah.
It's definitely, yeah, we should probably just get into it.
Well, I do want to preface it real quick that often we joke around and talk about how some of the best reviews are for terrible movies. Mm-hmm. I think this one is one of those reviews.
It's good, but I don't think it's one of my best.
I do.
Okay.
I do, just for the...
I can't wait.
Just because of the review itself, and also I'm sure the discussion that we'll have after it. That will
I don't remember what now, but I could have swore there was one I wrote this year that I liked better, but I don't even remember what it was now. So,
as far as a terrible movie goes?
Probably.
You'll probably remember when we played
maybe Jurassic World, but I don't think that one was it either.
No, this one
I like
think
my one
is
of
better.
Thor. I thought it was pretty good.
It was good.
Jurassic World was better than this movie.
It was.
Dominion.
And that's really saying something.
I don't think so.
What?
I gave this 1. I gave that a bomb. Well, I just spoiled
You don't even need to watch the review.
Yeah.
Man.
I wasn't going to give this a bomb. There were some things that, like, I told him the cinematography. There was a few
I didn't even
things.
like that.
Well, that's true.
Let's just do the review.
Yeah,
I got to hear this.
All right, here it is. Here's our review of Crimes of the Future.
Now that Thor: Love and Thunder has come and gone, and the box office is doomed to shrivel up and die, according to entertainment media outlets, we use what has been a rare dead week this summer, but sure to not be so rare according to those same media outlets, to review a true work of auteurism. A film that is the antithesis of theme park filmmaking, and what audiences should be going to cinemas to see, rather than rabble such as Marvel, Jurassic World, or Top Gun. Premiering at the Cannes Film Festival, where it suffered some walkouts while also garnering a 6-minute standing ovation, Crimes of the Future is the latest film from David Cronenberg. Considered the master of body horror, it has been over 2 decades since Cronenberg has made a film that could be considered part of this subgenre. With Crimes of the Future, Cronenberg returns to the genre that made him famous, even if the director doesn't believe in labeling films himself. In fact, it's this very attitude that makes Cronenberg such an auteur. His unwillingness to play by Hollywood's rules and make a film full of symbolism that shocks and disturbs audiences while delivering an important message. At least, those are the things Cronenberg has been praised for by the very peers he would decry. In reality, despite some critical acclaim and the 6-minute standing ovation at Cannes, Crimes of the Future has mostly failed to find an audience. And while its limited theatrical release explains some of this, those who have seen the movie tend to be turned off. Not because the movie is too shocking, disgusting, or perverse, as critics and Cronenberg would have you believe. In fact, in a world where audiences have seen things like Saw, Rob Zombie films, and The Boys, Crimes of the Future is relatively mild. It's not the quote-unquote body horror that is turning viewers away, but the lack of substance among self-aggrandizing drivel that is bizarre and so-called shocking just for the sake of being bizarre and shocking. The film is set in a dystopian future where humanity has evolved to no longer feel pain and no longer catch diseases or become sick or infected. In such a world, people regularly perform illegal performances of mutilation and open surgery. Devoid of pain, it is also hinted that humans have become devoid of sexual pleasure, as quote-unquote surgery is the new sex. Viggo Mortensen stars as Saul Tenser, a man with accelerated evolution syndrome, a disorder that causes him to rapidly form new organs with no known purpose. He takes advantage of his condition by putting on performance art with his assistant, Caprice, played by Lea Seydoux, who removes Saul's vestigial organs while he's awake in front of a live audience. The film takes many twists and turns as it does its best to provoke viewers into reconsidering what makes one human, our environment, how humanity adapts to its environment, and also being comfortable with one's own body, and what the government is willing to do to control people's thoughts on all of these things. This sounds like an intriguing and thought-provoking premise coupled with shocking visuals, and this is what Cronenberg was going for, and what he was praised for, though I personally do not believe he succeeded, and it would seem many other viewers feel the same. As previously mentioned, the shock elements aren't shocking, and most of the dystopian visuals are laughable rather than bizarre, with designs for things that are so outlandish and impractical, they detract from their purpose on film. Likewise, the abstract nature of the film could have been left open for interpretation. Art is subjective and often speaks differently to different people. But Cronenberg loads the end of the movie full of dialogue and exposition that beats you over the head with what he wants you to take away, diminishing the film as a work of art, while at the same time lacking any real substance to make it appealing as a narrative film. All major plot points are meant to be taken at face value, with characters commonly explaining everything in the film as being unexplainable. Outside of its lack of substance, the film is laden with poor dialogue, goofy visuals, and unlikable characters. The point of the movie is to make us look introspectively at our own society and how it could lead to such a dystopia, yet more often than not, I felt the very people who would praise this film for brilliantly showcasing this are the same people the film is trying to warn us against. Ultimately, I found Crimes of the Future to be a pretentious mess. Yes, I would agree it is the antithesis of theme park filmmaking like Marvel's latest outings, but only in that it is the opposite side of the same coin. One is devoid of substance but can still be a fun ride. The other is devoid of substance but will preach nonsense at you. You decide which is worse. I give Crimes of the Future 1 out of 4 stars.
So not a total bomb, but one out of 4 stars.
It's fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics say that this is the movie audiences should be going to the theaters for.
Well, like you said at the end, of course. I mean, why would we want to go see those popcorn?
This isn't a theme
Marvel
park.
flick.
This isn't a theme park movie.
Exactly.
Yeah. All of it's just so pretentious.
This is a mental ride and roller coaster that you should definitely ride.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. Let's dive in.
David Cronenberg, just so edgy. So edgy.
I mean, what happened,
Brilliant,
though?
man.
Like, you go from The Fly and
I was looking through his
Scanners, Dead Zone.
Yeah.
I mean, like, so many.
I love Dead Zone.
But it seems like that was kind of like 80s and
The
early
80s.
90s.
Yeah, I was
and then-
looking. Everything from like his first big success, which was I think Scanners was 78, and then so you go from that through out the 80s, and then he kind of drops off the face of Hollywood for a while in the 90s. Like he only made like 3 movies, and none of them I really knew.
Yeah.
And then he comes back in the 2000s and just starts making garbage.
Yeah.
And I was like, other than A History of Violence, that one's okay.
History of
But
Violence and Map of the Stars.
I didn't
Or
like Map of the Stars was terrible.
Yeah, we actually reviewed that one here on
I
the
didn't
show.
like that one.
See,
Yeah,
I didn't
I
think that
haven't
was
seen
as
it.
bad as this.
No. That's not. No, you're right. Map of the Stars, I thought was pretentious, but at least it actually had a decent narrative structure. This movie was just stupid.
I agree. You said it best, pretentious, and in the review, pretentious mess. And I think we all collectively not only had laughing fits throughout the whole film, but also the fact that afterward. You said it best, Keith. You said, it's not that I don't get it. It's just stupid.
Yeah. And that's because I think a lot of people argue that it's like, did you understand it? Did you understand what he was going for in the symbol? It's like, no, I get it. But I felt like a lot of the symbolism even conflicted with
That's
each
what
other.
I'm saying. It wasn't just one particular set of like things that he's trying. I mean, it was like just a jumbled mess of ideals and different messages that he was trying to portray.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you took me from one to another so quickly throughout the film that I never really had time to even chew on the first one to decide whether or not I think what you're saying to me is
true or not.
Well, and even talking about the contradictory nature of it, it's like there's so many elements that you're set up for early on in the film of, oh, okay, this is going to be explained later.
Yeah.
And it's not that things aren't explained later. It's just that they get to a point of explaining why you see it in the film the way you do, but then the explanation of why things are the way they are is just, well, we're not sure.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, so wait,
it's
we're
like,
in
how
this
this happened?
dystopian
We don't
future,
know.
Yeah.
and now these things we're just supposed to take at face value when you've supposedly invested all this time into how society got to this point, only to discover that a lot of the things we're supposed to revert back to or change course on is really just kind of a, well, just because.
Well,
and I'm like, okay, so
like
you
things
really
change, and you should just accept that it changes.
and then even when you're asking as kind of a viewer, it's like you even said in the review, you were like, yeah, some things in these types of films are left up to the viewer to decide. It's subjective, but this film doesn't leave you with that. It very pointedly goes into in its third act. It's like, okay, here's the point. This is what we're trying to arrive at, and we're going to tell you exactly and explicitly what that is, which it kind of throws you for a loop because it doesn't fit with the rest of the film. It ends up kind of just being this weird, investigative thriller about how people should turn and eat plastic because we created so much plastic. We were starting to evolve.
We evolved to adapt
into
to our
consuming plastic. It's freaking weird.
Yeah,
weird
but
crap.
I mean, part of that one of the things about that part of the story, or I mean, you could argue that's the overarching thing that he was going for.
There's tons of other,
but there's tons of other stuff. But I'm just like, well, okay, so he grows these organs for no reason. I mean, well, there is a reason by the end of the movie. But again, he mentions that their organs are all different, and I'm like, okay, so if your body's evolving to grow into this being that can eat plastic or synthetics or whatever, it's like you would have one specific organ that does that. Well, it's like a stomach. It
was growing a whole system, like a new digestive system. So because you have your esophagus that leads to the stomach.
I get that,
leads to the,
but in the beginning of the movie, they pull one organ out of him. They don't pull a system out of him.
Well, no, because
and then
he kept
says,
removing them.
I know, but then by the end of the movie, it's like I got one new organ in there that's cooking up, and it's I'm not ready to get rid of it yet. And it's like I
already removed all the others.
What I know, but I'm just like that system wouldn't work without all the pieces. It doesn't make any sense that by the end of the film he's able to do that.
Well, and why would it continue to evolve if you remove things that weren't in use?
Right, exactly.
Well, it doesn't make any sense.
We're sitting there watching this movie in my basement, and it's like within 25, 30 minutes of the movie, I see what he's going for there, and then 10 minutes later, Keith says, "No, I see what he was going for there." And all three of us had a different thing, and they were all a completely different plot point. It was all a completely different message.
Right.
And it's like we all three sat there and watched it together and got three different things from it.
Well,
like,
I don't know but the thing is I feel like each of the points we were bringing up were all valid to the story that Cronenberg was telling.
They were all definitely in there. Yeah.
But the thing is really the essence of the film in and of itself is nothing that you couldn't have got from any other type of film that was telling a story of how transition happens over time and you either adapt or die. Mm-hmm. And I know that's a very broad scope. I'm not going to get into the weeds as far as discussing
there's some
this
minutia in there, but
but ultimately my problem with the film is no, you took this very abstract way of telling a story that wasn't fully flushed out, and yet we're supposed to act like we come in and just witness this excellence.
Well, because that's
what I thought was just bizarre. I'm like, there's nothing in this film of merit,
and that's I think
nothing.
What he would defend it with, and what a lot of critics are, is like that's the point. Is the message is more important than anything else in there? It's like, yeah, but you muddy your message when nothing, like when you have no logic. It's like you could say, well, you're looking into things that don't matter. What's matters is the message. It's like, yeah, but when you have like the guy in the movie said, it's like you surgically changed people. And then somehow this boy, your offspring, was born genetically with what you were altering surgically. If you cut off your finger, your son's not going to be born with 9 fingers. That's not how science or biology works. And the guy's like, I can't explain it. He's my miracle child. And it's like, okay, at that point, I can't believe what you're trying to sell me because you don't have an answer for it.
You just moved from science to miracles.
Right.
And it's like, no. So now we're supposed to, is it, I mean, again, like the movie was devoid of any kind of spirituality.
Well, and even this,
but I'm like, you can't use the term miracle without without thinking about that. But then it's all it's scientific, and then it's government cover up and all this other crap.
I was gonna say, and even
like,
throwing that
hell?
in there, it just didn't make any sense. Like the key plot points were so loosely based and connected to one another that even like there's just scenes that are like. I can't describe it without going into the bizarre nature of the film.
Just do it.
But I'm like, you see them walking down, a couple of characters walking down a street, and there's hardly anybody. There's nobody in the street but like 1 or 2 people.
Yeah. Homeless
then
druggies
they get
cutting
to this,
on each other.
Yeah, homeless druggies cutting on each other.
But I guess they're not druggies anymore. They just cut each other.
Well, that's their drug.
Yeah.
It's this weird fascination with
people
with
can't
pain,
feel pain, so they cut on each other.
which again. Not explained, and okay, fine, so be it. We'll just go with that as
we evolved.
This is how, yeah. So then you have little weird scenes like that, and then now all of a sudden you're in an art expo where it's just surrounded by. But supposedly this is supposed to be in secret because this is the kind of underground culture that that isn't legal, but yet you have the main character played by Viggo Mortensen is supposed to somehow be a spy for the government and working with them to kind of.
Well, that's a bit of a spoiler alert. You're not supposed to know that not supposed to know that till the end.
No,
movie's spoiled. It's okay.
Go watch. Well, you see him throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, it's not the end. It is about halfway through when you find that out.
Yeah,
but
and
still.
he's covertly not covertly. He speaks to this guy in a shipyard. This one person that's his point of contact. I'm just
Vice.
like, there's just nothing.
New Vice. What in the world? I love it. And their answer for why they call it New Vice is great. It's just like because people wouldn't want us to call it the Oregon Police,
right,
or whatever. I mean, whatever stupidity they come up with. It's like
I didn't understand the layers of what we were supposed to accept was societal norms and what wasn't, and that was part of what conflicted for me. Is it's like, okay, I got it throughout the film, but it just shows you the laziness in which the world itself that he built is not breathed in any type of reality. Yeah. Again, you go and see a Lord of the Rings movie, Middle Earth is real when you watch those movies. The world seems livable and breathable through the characters and through the different scenery and set pieces.
Yeah.
Everything feels like it has a purpose and that it organically came. This feels like, and I know what anybody would argue is like, well, this is supposed to be a dystopian future. But even look at freaking Ridley Scott's Blade Runner, and I'm sorry, but that's way better breathed out, more so than even Ridley Scott's newest crap. So look, I'll give credit where credit is due, but there just wasn't any in this film.
No. I mean, I said it in the review, and I mean, we've laughed about some of the bizarre stuff, but even the design choices for like the bed he lays in and this chair he eats in.
Chair.
Yeah. It's like,
I'm like, why do I call it a breakfast
bad.
chair? Does he not eat all 3 meals
there?
Just
breakfast?
Just breakfast.
But I'm just like, even as a dystopian future, it's like, look, there has to be, if this is supposed to be a, like, kind of what our future could look like, I have to believe, like, okay, the Jetsons is more believable than these chairs and beds. I was like, who would design, like, because I know they're supposed to kind of be bio-organic and hook into their bodies, but at the same time, I'm like, still, you can make, like, nobody's going to make something that looks like that, and people are going to, nobody's,
it looked like something out of friggin' Half-Life from, like, 97.
Yeah. You know what it reminded me of? You know, the art thing that she gets in that Beetlejuice that she ends up sitting in that wraps around her? Like that.
Yeah.
It's like that, and it's like, and granted, that was her abstract art, and they make fun of her in the movie for it being bad, and David Cronenberg took something similar and was like, yeah, no, that's a legitimate chair in the future.
Well,
people would look at that and be like, yeah, I'm going to buy that and eat in it.
Well, you even have, like, solo artists at, like, huge companies. I mean, this is what's funny is comparing it to something like a Marvel flick that's a popcorn theme park ride.
Yeah.
But you probably have solo artists dedicated to those movies that literally work on displays for computers so that when characters fake interact with them, it actually legitimately looks. I mean, we joked on what was the last 007 movie? I'm trying to think. I forget the title.
No Time to Die?
No Time to Die. And how terrible the interface looked in just with dealing with computer screens.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking, you have to have like a practical way, even if you're thinking futuristically, and I get it's all design, it's all subjective, but her, like, literally seeing Lee Sedol sitting here with this, like, little apparatus that's, like, rainbow colored, and she's just squeezing it in her hands. And I'm like,
just like, what is
we're
this?
supposed to believe she's controlling this whole apparatus that's cutting into his body?
Right.
Like
With precision.
Right.
You know?
It made no freaking sense.
Just randomly pushing buttons on this thing.
It was not even, like, sci-fi, you know. I just didn't even feel that. It was just absurd.
You even
to
said
a degree.
there's a part where she's doing like an ultrasound inside him, and you were like, "That's an XLR cable."
It literally looked like the end of an XLR cable.
I would, no doubt.
They took that and they took
just,
like
which is exactly what it
which
looks
is
like.
fine because if you think of the first Alien movie and some of the stuff that they used to make the inside of those ships, and you think of Star Wars, I mean, good Lord, Star Wars was paper mache and duct tape, most of it, and I mean the lightsaber's a freaking flash gun from an old camera flash.
Yeah.
So it's like you can take these everyday things and make them believable set pieces in a movie and props. But the stuff that he used in this movie was just ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like she's wirelessly transmitting video from a ring to a tube television. Like, you can't make me believe that that's in the future. It was just
They don't have
stupid.
flat screen HD TVs anymore. We've in dystopian future, we got to go back to tube TVs.
Well,
and
eventually they're just going to eat them all.
Well, you got all kinds of pollution. That's, I mean, honestly, it was a brilliant way, I guess, to solve our problem. It's like we're just going to evolve to eat it, so don't worry about pollution. That's what I got from it. Don't worry about pollution right now.
Yeah.
We're going to evolve and eat it. So.
That's right. Well, we're going to evolve because
That's
we
not
have
the real
to.
message, but that's what I'm going to take from it.
We have to evolve to maintain our
humanity
destruction of the
will
universe.
evolve to survive, so therefore we shouldn't worry about anything we're doing right now. Good job, Cronenberg. I agree with that message.
There we go. Easiest message to take away from the film. Yeah, it's definitely not all it's cracked up to be. All of the hubbub that it got at Cannes.
I can't believe it.
I know it was it doesn't surprise me, but yet it does, because I thought we were somewhat coming out of this age where these weird, obscure films that really nobody ever saw or watched.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, here's the thing.
In the age of the internet and streaming, I mean, everybody hears about everything, and it's not always good.
Well, but also, we definitely had, I think, indie experimental films, especially early in the 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
You had a resurgence of independent filmmaking. And I thought, that brought forth a lot of pluses and minuses, no doubt. Some weird crap that, like, Train Spotting, you would have been like, what in the world? But it's
Danny
awesome.
Boyle.
Danny
Yeah,
Boyle.
yeah, it is.
And it's fantastic. But then you also have some weird hits or miss, like, I remember one movie called A Scanner Darkly that literally just took.
I remember Scanner
and I know some
They
people
just
who
rotoscoped the whole thing.
They
right,
rotoscope, yeah.
And but now it's just
Or is it cell shading? Did they rotoscope or cell shade?
They did at the time, but it now is an effect you could just add on your computer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's probably the technology.
Yeah.
But again, it's like you see these weird, obscure films that had like some unique artistic direction, but it wasn't purely, only for artistic expression.
No, I mean, there were independent films that got a lot of praise that were just well done and good. I mean, Little Miss Sunshine was an independent film, and it was great.
Absolutely.
Napoleon Dynamite was huge when it came out.
Fantastic movie.
And granted, those were just different and quirky films made by independent creators. They weren't trying to be this overtly like artistic, abstract thing like Scanner Darkly, which was mostly just the rotoscoping or cell shading, or this with Cronenberg. That's how weird. Like, I want to shock people, and it's like, you're not being shocking. Like, it's laughable. Every time we saw something that's supposed to be shocking, it just looked so hokey.
Yeah.
I mean,
it didn't.
I'm just like Hardcore Henry. It's such a good use of different camera work that's never been done before with the first person. And then you have films like Upgrade, which are completely out there sci-fi.
Yeah.
Independent films, so good. And I'm like, yes, again, this could have been a masterpiece. But I don't know. If people consider this a masterpiece, then I'm like, well, then The Fly was garbage. And I mean, and to me, The Fly is one of the most awesome sci-fi movies I've ever seen. And as far as the effects go, like, that movie will make you sick.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's scenes in that movie that literally will make you want to gag.
Yeah.
And the only thing in this movie that gagged was Viggo Mortensen. So, I don't know. Not his best work.
No, not at all. Lee Sedol is naked in it. That's a plus.
Yeah.
I will say, driving home, my first thought was, if all movies in the entire world got destroyed and this was the only one left behind, I immediately thought, wow, the future is going to be bleak. If this is what they have to watch us and say, wow, this is a society and this is what they came up with.
This is what they'll put in the time capsule.
Yeah. And damn us all. Damn us all if that's the case. All righty. I guess now we are finally ready to move on to our headlines.
See that.
Don't go see Crimes of the Future. Don't. All right. Let's talk about our first headline up on the block. Y'all ready? It's the headline of the week. Bob Iger regrets hiring Bob Chapek.
The Bobs.
The Bobs. Battle
Iger
of the
regrets
Bobs.
hiring Chapek.
Apparently, Iger, he did a
little disappointed.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because, I mean, I respect Bob Iger and a lot of things he did for Disney. So, I mean, I'm not going to immediately just disbelieve him, but at the same time, you do also have to ask how much of this is him wanting to cover his own butt because of how far down Disney has gone. But again, I mean, I do think some of the things he said had merit. I was pulling up the article.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because it was, I was trying to see who originally.
It was
Business Insider.
Yeah,
because
the
article, one of them is Inside the Magic. So I was trying to see.
Yeah,
so
that's the one
Business
we have.
Insider was originally the one who broke the story regarding some things Bob Iger had to say about Bob Chapek and how one of his biggest regrets was hiring Chapek. Apparently, he butted heads with the board about Chapek replacing him, and the board won out. Chapek became his successor. And we even talked about it on the show back when it first broke that he was stepping down, but he was going to stay on with Disney for a year as a kind of like a
before COVID all hit
as an advisor, and he was going to kind of guide Chapek into the role and like kind of a soft transition. And then that ended up not happening. Iger ended up bowing out a lot faster than the year. And people just thought it was like, oh, they don't need him. But apparently that wasn't true either. Apparently Chapek didn't want Iger's help. And they just said, hey, we don't need you. And here's the exact. We reported on a story earlier this year detailing the strained relationship between the two businessmen. And Chapek was reportedly furious. Ben Smith published a story after reaching Iger by email where Iger told Smith he would stick around to help to run the company, saying a crisis of this magnitude, and this was when COVID first broke, and its impact on Disney would necessarily result in my actively helping Bob, as in Chapek, and the company contend with it, particularly since I ran the company for 15 years. And I mean, he has the experience.
He's basically saying, look, I've been at the helm for 15 years. This isn't another day in the park. You know, this is something that we need to take and handle seriously.
But according to this insider, it says allegedly Chapek was furious when he saw the story and the comments. He had not expressed a need or desire for extra help and had not asked for any. So basically he was like, I don't need Iger's help, which is kind of...
It's a little bold.
Yeah, it's a little bold and pretentious when a man who basically considered to have kind of rescued Disney from Michael Eisner and brought us through kind of a uptick where you had Tangled, Frozen, the purchase of Lucasfilm, the purchase of Marvel, the purchase of Pixar. Yeah. It's like this man basically, you know, because the early 2000s was kind of ugly for Disney. I mean, you had the Renaissance in the 90s, but it went south pretty quick right after. And this man did a lot for Disney, so it is bold for someone like Chapek to be like, I don't need his help.
Well, and I think it's interesting, too, because we've kind of seen a little bit of Chapek's attitude over the last year, you know, since all of these major, you know, news stories have broken and controversies surrounded Disney. Mm-hmm. And we've seen kind of how Chapek has handled it. And if I recall correctly, back then, we kind of thought they were on the same page because of the Michael Eisner situation. We were thinking, well, maybe there is this kind of nice handing of the, you know, the magic wand to the new CEO so that there isn't a rough patch, so that there is a smoothing out of you know, a transition of power. And ultimately, I think that we've gotten a little bit of not only Chapek's attitude, but we've seen how this could be something that Iger is resenting because he's seeing how he's handled these situations even since that point.
Well, if
and
you
maybe
just look at the brief stint Chapek's had already with Disney has taken a steep dive downward.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's why even these comments are shocking and surprising coming from the predecessor, but not, surprising in the sense of, okay, he's not really telling us something we didn't all think ourselves.
Yeah.
It's surprising coming from the person who was at the helm before.
It's almost like it was safe to knock Chapek now, so it's kind of like, okay, now I can say I didn't ever care for him because I won't get in trouble for it.
That's how I felt with a similar, not entirely similar situation, but if you think about Twitter and you think about, what's the guy's name?
Jack Dorsey?
Jack Dorsey.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
like once he was out, it was kind of like, oh, now it's time to, I can badmouth Twitter and I can expose a little bit of what was going on, but it's
Even
like,
though he was
you were in
responsible
charge of
for
it.
it.
Yeah. And I'm just like,
it's like, wait, yeah. Well, and almost kind of having this faux sense of, oh, but I just couldn't say what was really on my mind. And I'm like, okay, but this is
blame it
kind
on
of
the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is kind of the problem with some, and Iger, correct me if I'm wrong, was basically saying too that he was outvoted in terms of the board approving Chapek. That Iger didn't want that to go forward.
Yeah, apparently
but the
he
board
fought against it, but the board wanted Chapek.
But even then, he wanted a smooth transition and wanted to help. But it's as he was kind of stuck on the sidelines and just kind of watched.
But knowing
ship
that
sink.
Iger initially didn't want this to go through, also is telling that at least, of course, he wasn't going to try to. They even mentioned in the article about how they met up at this billionaire summit that a bunch of freaking billionaires went to.
Yeah.
And they met cordially, but they didn't have many words for each other. And I think it speaks on behalf of the two different, mindsets, and ultimately how Chapek is kind of stubbornly just like, I want to make this my own. But also even Iger, I think, mentions at the end of the article, his quote was he kind of wanted to get in there and get behind the scenes with the imagination and the creative aspect of it, but not so much the business aspect. And I think that's where Iger obviously was able to blend his talents in both. And if he ever was very happy with the creative aspect and dabbling in that, I don't know who wouldn't be in Disney. But it seems like he never let that get the best of him. He never let that be at the forefront of taking care of the business needs.
Yeah, well, part of the business needs is to make sure you're hiring good creatives. And that's one of the things that I think we've seen kind of Chapek is in charge of some, when you watch these meetings and Zoom calls and all these things, you realize that the creatives there don't necessarily have
but a lot of
people
these
in their best interest.
Did not come from Chapek.
Yeah, they were already
They were there, but now they have the voice.
Right, and that's
and
the real
support.
question. Do we know, and this has been the constant waning of what direction is Disney going? Because even though we understand that I think the ire between these two, we don't know exactly who wants to go in what direction. We don't know if Chapek is still heading in a certain direction. We know he just got board approval for 3 more years.
Yeah.
So really the story to tell will be how these next 3 years pan out, and then we'll truly know exactly where Chapek is headed and if the ship that he wants to keep on course for Disney. And I think with Iger, we already got we understood. We have 15 years of his experience to kind of gauge what we think Iger would be doing in this position. But it's hard to tell because who knows if at the end of it he was like, no. Maybe Chapek is going to, we don't understand exactly what his disagreements with Chapek were
there was
and
no
how he was going to run
details.
the company. We can only speculate on that. So I don't know. I'm kind of up in the air.
We know he fired his fiercest competition, though. But
true. What we think.
Again,
that's
we don't know that. We know he did fire him. We just don't know if that was why.
Well, we don't know exactly if that was his stiffest competition. Yeah,
that was his reasoning.
Right. But I don't know. I think Disney's in a precarious position. I think that they made a lot of bad moves. And this actually kind of, nicely, seamlessly goes into one of the other big stories we've got from this week, which happens to be that Thor dropped 68%.
It did.
and continues a bad trend with Marvel films.
Now, I do want to play slightly just because I like to do this just to go ahead and debunk it at the same time. I wanted to play devil's advocate in the sense that I know a lot of people will say, but it came in at number 1 its second weekend in the box office. And all of the box office, big blockbusters this year have dropped at least 60%. Spider-Man did at the end of last year. Doctor Strange did. Jurassic World did. So a lot of people are like, this is just normal this year. Except it's not, because Top Gun. Yeah. I was going to say, the only movie that didn't drop that much was Top Gun. And what does it have not in common with all these other movies? It's just a solid, good movie focused on telling its story and entertaining. Top Gun, I think I read it dropped 29% first week to second. That's less than half of what all the others dropped, because I think the lowest on it, I think, was Spider-Man, which was around 60. I don't remember the exact number, but the rest of them were over 60% dropped first to second week. And it's like, because you're making movies that, everybody's going to go see them the first week.
The Screen Rant article that we linked to specifically brings up the fact that even No Way Home still faced stiffer competition.
Yes.
Yeah,
a week after.
It dropped 60%, but there was a lot that was released in December.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though we knew in December the strongest showing was easily Spider-Man.
Yeah, but still.
It still went on to continue to be a juggernaut.
Thor didn't face anything its second weekend.
Exactly.
Yeah. Nothing. There was nothing out. I mean, there were previous movies out. Minions is still out. Top Gun's still
Where
out.
the Crawdads Sing.
Yeah, but that wasn't going to be a blockbuster.
And then the animated, what was it?
Hey.
Paws of Fury.
My wife said it was amazing.
That's fine. It's still not. It was never like that's like Nicholas Sparks can be amazing, but it's never going to be a blockbuster. It's not amazing either, but still.
Is it a Nicholas Sparks book?
No. This one.
I was going to say I didn't think it was.
I was just equating it to something similar. Yeah.
Yep. Although it is
like
funny because
Dear John or whatever, that could be an amazing movie, but it's never going to be a blockbuster.
I can guarantee it's a better movie than Crimes of the Future.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. My sister's reading the book too, and she really wants to see the movie.
Well,
the Crawdads Sing.
The author or something just arrested or something. It was like
it says she was wanted
for the murder of
questioning. She didn't murder, but apparently, questioning
Yeah.
for something. Like I don't know if she was a witness or something. I'd have to pull it up. I just thought it was interesting. It's like, this adaptation is getting big right now, and here is the author that. Apparently,
we were sitting the night that I came home from watching Thor. Like the next day, Amelia was asking me, "So what'd you think of the movie?" And I'm telling her all this stuff or whatever, and I was just like, I seriously doubt that it does good, and I think it's like everybody's going to see it now, and she was just like, I was trying to explain to her because she's not into the movie news and all this stuff. I was like, I'm waiting for the next weekend to see how it does the next weekend. That'll tell everything. So she shares like an article with me in the middle of the week or whatever. It's talking about how Thor's, number 1 at the box office, all this money. And I'm like, just wait till the weekend.
Yep.
And
you always wait till the second weekend.
And then the second weekend, this news came out, and I'm like, it dropped more than half in a freaking week.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's like, that shows you. And I think again, you said there's not a lot of competition. I think even if there was competition, it's still wouldn't necessarily be because of the competition. I really feel like this movie is one of those where even people that I thought would love this movie have said I'm not a huge fan of it.
Yep.
Maybe for different reasons than us.
People that I feel like I know that are
who,
less critical of Marvel films were more critical. Everybody walked away feeling like the silliness factor was way too high.
Even if like the stuff in there that
minus the woke stuff.
That's what I'm saying. Even if the stuff we consider woke that doesn't, like I know people who would eat that stuff up that still didn't care for it because they were like, it's too goofy, too silly. Yeah. And my thing about the non-competition was just it being number 1 in the box office. I would say that's just because it had no competition.
No,
obviously
I
think
it's word of mouth. I think people went and saw it and are just like, this is not as good.
That's my point.
You're gonna have the
that's the 68. I'm just saying it's only number 1 still because it had no competition.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
Because people are trying to defend it. They're like, it dropped 68, but it's still number 1.
Oh well,
yeah,
that was
the
primary amount of headlines that I saw were based on that. They were just saying like Thor's number 1.
Yeah, everybody's praising it as being a huge success right now because.
Well, and here's the thing:
it's following this year's trend. But
no
if you look,
doubt, gonna probably break $1 billion, like most Marvel films. It may or may not because I don't know about Doctor Strange. I think
it's at 800 something. I thought, or did it finally hit that billion? Last week I checked, it was like 800 million.
I think it might have finally eked over. I Can we check real quick?
Yeah,
I don't
let's
know
check.
if we can
But
look.
even still, when you're looking at, and granted, I know they're not released in China, which makes an impact on the box office. But even still, worldwide, their grosses are not comparable to what you're looking at within like Phase 3 of the Infinity Saga.
Right. Well, and I think that brings about the bigger topic at hand that we were just kind of hinting at with regards to the woke, ideology being thrusted on in there. And that's kind of what we've seen. I mean, even those who don't necessarily knock these films for their woke, their wokeness, but ultimately are just knocking it for being lazy. Because even the Screen Rant article, of course, we know where they match up,
exactly.
where they line up. And they were talking about how most people are just walking away from this entire phase. Exactly what we discussed last week on last week's show.
They just won't acknowledge why, though.
I have
that's the problem.
According to
it's every other reason than the real reason.
They don't see it as a bug; they see it as a feature.
Yeah.
And they're trying to deny that feature as being the existence as to why the numbers are so low. And it's like, no. That again is the feature you get with having wokeness. But go ahead.
I was going to say, according to Box Office Mojo, worldwide right now, Doctor Strange is sitting at 954 million. So it's just shy.
It'll break a
It's
billion.
going to, yeah. It'll hit it, but it's not going to go much further.
But and I really would be surprised.
But it released in China, didn't it?
No.
It did not?
None of these have.
None of these
None of
movies.
these have?
we
There's been
discussed
no
that last
major
week.
box office, major blockbuster that's released
That's
in China.
right. Well, you can't when it's
Well, that's still
LGBTQ, yeah.
Yeah,
it's got
exactly.
the
They won't allow
LGBT
that.
stuff in it.
Yep.
And then Top Gun didn't because of the
Well,
time
but
of the flag,
okay, but
yeah.
here's the other thing, because you sent a Polygon article, Sean, and I think this was spot on, because this goes in the complete opposite direction for all the woke crusaders, and they were basically saying, like, we're tired of Disney using queerness to bait us in and then not give us anything and deliver anything. So really, they were at least
they're displeased in the other direction.
right.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
It's not
read.
enough.
they're tired of they're tired of the pandering.
You're tippy-toeing around it and
Just
all that.
It's clear, and I agree. Marvel is pandering. Either do one or the other. But yeah, they're tired of being pandered
They want them to
to
double down.
Yeah,
and I think I honestly, and this is what I love about this, is that it puts Disney in the exact position that they've been asking for by tiptoeing around it. You're now having to choose and pick a side. Do you want to go all in and risk upsetting who you believe? I mean, and the article was right in pointing out, that they know what we're worth in terms of getting our butts in the seats.
Right.
But now it's time for them to double down and prove just how valuable we are.
but then
And I think
you
it's
alienate
funny
another audience,
because
yeah.
I can use the exact same argument and say, but now you're going to alienate the other crowd to where it could be enough of a chunk of the pie.
just kept your mouth shut and focused on making entertainment, but because you decided to take a stance and you only went halfway with it, it's like, look, once you tiptoe, put your toe in the water, it's like you're in, and it's
Right.
like, I'm sorry, you have, now you're in this predicament of, well, you started, are you gonna hold up to it, or are
Right.
you gonna backtrack? Because either way you go, now you're looking bad to one side or the other.
And truth be told, I think that what they're arguing for is going to fail miserably, because I think they believe, again, they're in their own insular bubble. And you could say the same about me. It's just I'm surrounded by it all day.
Yeah.
It's like I'm surrounded by people who push these initiatives of representing under, represented groups.
Right.
And yet at the same time, I think it's like, okay, but it's going to be extremely telling. Think about with Lightyear. I mean, you saw a massive downturn. I mean, it's a complete flop, and how much they invested in that film in general. And granted, you had people who were on the left side of the aisle not even going and supporting it for that basis fact, that for that point alone. The fact that they had a lesbian on-screen kiss, but ultimately too that it just wasn't a good movie. You had critics panning it just because they said it's an okay story. So I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, when substance and the story itself is not where the merit lies, you're still going to end up with a lukewarm movie that doesn't really please anybody, and that's a disaster at the end of the day. You can't be 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And look, I'm not saying you have to go completely non-woke, but at the same time, I think if you do, you're going to actually benefit yourselves a lot more than trying to go woke.
Yeah.
Because wokeness we've seen, go woke, go broke.
So I just wanted to point out, Top Gun right now is sitting at 1.2 billion, and it actually came out after Doctor Strange, about a month late, because Doctor Strange came out at the beginning of May.
That's
and it came out
right.
at the end.
That's true.
So it's sitting at 1 point. $1,240,000,000 and more, but obviously, so yeah, it's still going strong. Like as far as dropping week to week, it's still making money. I think more so than Doctor Strange is now, because now that Thor's out, that's just going to cannibalize. I mean,
right.
Well, I'm not even sure. I don't know if Doctor Strange is even in theaters anymore, except for maybe very limitedly.
But it's funny because Top Gun still is.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, because it's so popular, and like we've
still,
seen that.
It's still continuing to showcase its success and why it should stay in theaters. But you're right. I don't know if Doctor Strange is probably still have like the smaller dollar theater.
And Thor's sitting at $505 million right now, which is, I mean, fine. I mean, it's been out
it's
2 weeks now. No, and I didn't think it was
flop.
going to be. I mean, it's Marvel. People are going to see it. But when you compare it to how massive of a success Marvel has been in the past, and the fact that
it's waning,
it's got a lot of mixed response from not just critics. I mean, critics mostly praise it, but it's still not very high there. I think it's in the 70s on Rotten Tomatoes. And then audience members.
It's the lowest rated Marvel in this phase so far.
Yes. Yeah. And you could tell where people are kind of, they haven't given up on Marvel yet, but at the same time, people are kind of like, okay, we're waiting to be impressed. Like, this is just getting old now. Like, it's just the same old crap with woke stuff shoved in too, but we're not getting, you're not getting the substance, like you said, with Civil War and the argument between Tony and Captain America. It's like you don't have the moments that actually feel like there are actual things at stake. Like nothing, like there's never a time in any of these movies that you feel worried about anything. It's like, well, the superhero's going to save the day, and that's it.
The only thing I'm worried about is where it's going.
Yeah.
Well, and again, no amount of wokeness is going to salvage that.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the pandering bit that the Polygon article brought up that I agree with. It's like you're bringing it up, but the problem is you want more of it and you want them to double down. I'm on the other side saying, no, we don't need that. What we need is more substance in terms of the plot.
Yeah.
And they truly believe on the woke side, they think, oh, no, more of this is what's going to push people to the theaters. And I'm like, no, that's what and again, our very relevant and most recent example of that not being true is Top Gun.
I was going to say, I find it telling because I was looking at last weekend's, like all of the rankings, and Thor, of course, was 1 and Minions was 2, which makes sense. It's second weekend. Or third week. That's Minions' third weekend, and it came in 2. Where the Crawdads Sing was 3, which
so Minions even beat out the Samuel L. Jackson animated. They said it's a complete flop.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It came in 6.
I was going to take the kids to see it, but
I figured it would be big too.
Yeah, but Where the Crawdads Sing came in 3rd, which makes sense for that type of movie. It's opening weekend. Number 4 is Top Gun. This movie's been out since May.
Yeah,
it's still in the top 5.
And it came in number 4. Elvis came in 5th, and then Paws of Fury was 6th. So
it's gonna be a flop.
Yeah,
Minions was number 2 again. I think Paws of Fury was just up against the stiff competition of Minions and IP. It's only its second.
Everybody
week,
knows.
Everybody knows.
Well, there's another kids movie coming out in a week or so. It might be this weekend. It's
Nope is
the one with Dwayne The Rock. It's a DC.
Oh, the DC Super Pets. Yeah.
Oh, I haven't
that
even
comes
seen
out.
that.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
I forgot about that.
I think that's going to take away from Paws of Fury.
Oh, no doubt.
Sure.
Especially if it even if it flops, it's still probably going to push that one out because I just nobody has interest in seeing it.
Yeah.
But we're going to go review Nope.
Lightyear came in 10th.
Wow, that just shows you.
It made
Nope. Is that this weekend?
That's this
Nope's
weekend.
this weekend.
So we're going to see that Sunday night, hopefully.
Lightyear made a whopping $1,546 this week. This
How
past
much?
weekend. $1,546.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's abysmal.
That is terrible.
No.
That's no.
Lightyear.
Oh, yeah.
And it's its 4th week?
Yeah.
It's its 5th week.
Fifth
But
week.
still.
But hold on, 5th week, and how much did Top Gun bring in?
Oh, Top Gun? In its 8th week made $12,268,000.
I was going to say 12,000.
Are you sure that wasn't 1 million?
Let me
on
double
there?
check on
Or
Lightyear.
There's no
What
way.
did
It's
I
got to be
say?
1 million.
I probably
1,000.
Did I read that wrong? Where'd it go?
It's abysmal.
It's 1,400,000.
Okay.
Yeah, 1,400,546.
I was like, man, they're only showing
But
that
still,
on
I was
like
like,
5
that's not even
screens.
worth keeping that in the theater
But
for.
1 million compared to Top Gun's
12.
12 million is very sad. And then Minions did 26 million, and Thor did. It cut off. It doesn't want me to see Thor anymore. I think it was like 5.
It's telling. That's very telling.
And I think it was like 50 million is what I saw before it did. It just completely disappeared. It starts with number 2.
They took it off.
They took it off. It's not worthy.
Oh.
And our last headline we're going to dive into real quick. I just want to get your all's quick opinion on
46.
this.
It popped back up. 46 million
46
is
million.
what Thor did.
We're going to talk about Rocky.
Rocky.
Sylvester Stallone, he wants
Good old Sly.
He wants some for his children.
I have mixed feelings. I understand his feelings, but he did sign the contract, and it's hard to argue. It's like I know it became a massive franchise, which you weren't expecting when you made, and I know he did create it. He is the driving force behind the Rocky franchise, so I understand why he feels he deserves a piece of that.
Yeah.
And I would agree he does deserve a piece, but legally, if he had done it the right way, it's like I'm sorry, you signed that contract, and that.
Well, and here's the thing.
Hindsight's 20/20. I know it sucks.
The article, rightly so, says he's made his money off Rocky. And obviously we all know that. But I think it's funny that he wants to leave the rights for his children. And I'm like, well, what about the guy that we don't know nothing about? What about his kids? What about his family?
He was the producer.
This is his only claim to fame.
Yeah.
It's like, no, he didn't create the idea like Sylvester Stallone did, but he was the producer that got it. Like, Rocky almost didn't get made.
Well, I was going to say, you can sit there and crap on the guy all you want, or I don't think he's crapping on him, but he's trying to say, hey, it's time now to hand it over to me.
Apparently, it's been a sore spot for quite a few years for Sylvester Stallone.
And I understand, because it is his creation, and I feel like what he's coming from and arguing on behalf of is he wants to own it outright because it is fully what he vested his time and effort into, and it is fully his. But intellectually, he doesn't own it necessarily. And yet, at the same time, while that is true, you still have reaped the benefits, but you would have never been where you are had that guy not given you the break you needed at the time and given you a chance to flourish. Well, so why not? And I know I could see Sylvester Stallone arguing like, okay, yeah, no, he deserved everything he got, but it's time. It's time for him to hand it over to me.
The argument, and I again, I don't agree with this either, but his argument was because back then, you didn't
ruffle feathers.
Yeah, you took what you got, basically. He's like, there was a certain code of business conduct, maybe not as much now, but back then, you don't ruffle the feathers of the golden goose. And it's like, okay, everybody uses that excuse. Well, that's how it was done back then, and if you didn't go along with it, well, then you didn't get your project made, or you didn't get to become famous. And it's like, okay, everybody uses that excuse, but if everybody if everybody would stand up for themselves, that wouldn't have existed back then either. You know why it doesn't exist now? Because people got tired of it and said, no, we're not doing this anymore. Yeah. You can't be mad that you weren't one of the first people to stand up for yourself and make a change.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of women
Rocky,
out there.
You're supposed to be Rocky. Off the screen, too.
Yeah.
A lot of women
That's right.
wish people would have spoke up to Harvey Weinstein.
Oh, God.
Heart of gold. Heart of gold.
Heart of
Harvey
gold.
Weinstein.
Golden goose.
Oh.
He goosed a couple women, didn't he?
He didn't lay no eggs.
I wouldn't want an egg from Harvey Weinstein.
Oh, gosh, no. Alrighty. Let's time to move on to our multimedia segment. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Multimedia.
Multimedia. All right, let's talk about it. And this actually could go a couple different directions. Well, he just let us know what he thinks.
Wow.
Well, I hit the Mario button, but I don't think the thing was quite over yet, so the sound didn't come through.
Yeah, it should have come through.
Or it's stuck because it's still going.
It's still going.
Oh,
It crashed.
There it goes. I fixed it.
well,
Nope.
it ain't working.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm not sure why it's not working.
Well, okay. Well, it's just
sounds
not
right.
multimedia Mario. It just seemed to fit together, but that's okay.
Could be an update needed for
It's
that
you know
thing.
why? Because you don't have it's working on there, and it refuses to work
not
until
working.
until you get the button that's it's working. It's no longer going to work.
I may get that after I get my server up and running. Okay,
okay.
That's
Okay.
a new feature
Okay.
coming. All right,
So-
let's talk about
The multis of media.
when are you willing to give up subscribing? What? And this could be related to anything. This could literally be related to movie streaming services, subscription boxes. I don't know if people still do that anymore. Those were hot for a minute.
When the value is no longer worth
That's what I was
the
gonna
cost.
say. When it's no longer worth my money.
Yeah.
Okay, but wait, let's be a little bit more descriptive.
No, I was going to. I just wanted to throw that out first.
That's your define. That's your definition.
When the value is no longer worth the cost.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to think of something I may have unsubscribed to recently, and the only thing I could think of was Game Pass, and that was mostly because I don't play the Xbox and my PlayStation anymore. Like, there's really no games on Xbox I want to play, and I was paying, the monthly subscription for Game Pass because they're all free on there, and I'm like, oh, they have something I might want to play that's cool. But then it got to the point where it's like, well, if I'm not playing, I go several months without ever touching the Xbox because everything I want to play is on PlayStation. Mm-hmm. I'm like, why am I paying $15 for a month for something I'm not touching when you don't have to lock into an annual subscription? If they ever do have a game I want, I can pay $15 that month and be fine with it. It's like, because I mean, it's the same thing. I saw some people arguing online about movies coming to streaming services like Paramount Plus, and I'm so tired of all the streaming services. It's like I don't want to have several different ones to watch what I want to watch. Like they asked about this certain movie going to theaters, and they're like, no, it's only going to Paramount Plus. And it's a children's movie. I don't remember. It may have been because I know Paws of Fury is. Well, that's in theaters, so it couldn't have been that one. But they were like, well, is it going to be in theaters? And I'm like, you want to take you and your children, and so even if it's just you and one child, tickets are at least $10. Mm-hmm. They're not cheaper than that.
Yeah.
So at minimum, you're gonna pay $20 for you and your child to go see this movie in theaters when you could just pay $10 that 1 month for Paramount
and have all the other stuff
and have it cheaper for a month. And I'm like, that's kind of the good thing about these services that they are monthly. So you can order it and cancel it, and it's still cheaper than going to the theater.
Right.
So in that sense, I do think it's kind of weird sometimes when people are like, I don't want to pay for that, but I'll go pay $50 to go see it in theaters. And I'm just like, to me, again, the value is what makes it worth it. So when you get to something like Netflix now, that's $20 a month, and now they're talking about cracking down with password sharing and adding even more money, I'm like, well, at some point it is too expensive, because it's like, yeah, you offer a lot of content, but if I'm only watching one movie a month on your service, which I do watch more, so that's fine. But if you're only giving me something I'm only interested in once a month or once every couple months, there's no point paying $20 every month for that.
No. Yeah.
No, well, I guess my question there too, though, is you say when the value runs out, but the value also could be, let's say you have 5 different streaming services and you want all of them, but you can only afford 4. It's like,
you
at
go
that
with
point,
the one that has the things you want the most.
Okay, well,
or you rotate it. I don't watch Netflix all the time, so it's and granted, password sharing. But
yeah, well, I was gonna say that's how I get around it.
Well, that's how I get around it.
For me, it's like I subscribe to one service, my brother and sister subscribe to another, my mom and dad subscribe to Netflix,
and we all share as a family. Yep. And then one day they'll say, no, you can't do that anymore.
Well, I think it's funny because,
and then I'll decide to ditch the one I need the least.
And do you think that'll be the one that ends up cracking down on the password sharing?
I can't. Well, I canceled Apple because, and granted, it's only $5 a month, but I'm like,
I just don't want. Yeah.
When Ted Lasso season 3 comes out, I'll pay $5, watch it, and then I'll be done with it because there's nothing else on there I want. So it's like,
well, and you can even see some places now. I mean, Netflix has kind of went against this trend. I guess they didn't because Stranger Things was an exception. But their idea was, oh, well, we're always going to support just a massive dump of whatever the show is.
Yeah.
It releases day one, you can binge watch it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you have these other services that are actually taking into consideration, no, we know we could string them along
week to week.
For week to week.
Make it
the
keep
release.
it longer.
Disney Plus
Disney and
that.
Amazon both do that.
And so with that being the scenario, it's like, well, you got to subscribe for at least 3 months, or in that third month, you just pay and get all of them.
Yeah.
Some people wait that way, but then you're not in the know. I think more so for me, it's also,
this is also why piracy keeps coming back up. Like it'll go down for a while because people have easy access to stuff, and then businesses come up with these wild, crazy things, and people are like, "Well, fine, we're just gonna go back to stealing." Sorry.
Well, no, I think it's an interesting point because it's funny that torrenting does become much more popular when you have businesses that try to reel you in with this great deal. Everybody jumps on the bandwagon, so it gets super successful. And then these companies are like, oh, well, then they'll continue to pay this price no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, we have enough to support. And I think that was the truth for Netflix, but we've even seen now with the stiff competition they've received in the same arena, it's now getting to the point of having to pick and choose what you're going to subscribe to. And it's not that the model is necessarily failing on the streaming front, but I think now they're going to get tactful about, okay, well, our average viewers are only subscribing 3 to 4 months out of the year. When we have certain, so now we're going to have to space them out as to what series are popular that will continue and put on certain times of the year to try to keep them subscribed throughout most of the year, or at least for a certain part of the quarter that jacks up our revenue stream and says, hey, look, we got this many people who are subscribing. And, it's funny that they'll try to do that sneakily behind the scenes when in reality it's like, well, it'll also crack down on the torrenting, because as long as you bring forth content that people are willing to pay for, but that's been my problem is don't expect me to continue to just pay a cable subscription worth of prices for all these streaming services when I'm not, one, enjoying them all at the same time, and two, I don't have a plethora of content that is available on every single one for there to be worth that price tag or that price of admission.
Yeah.
But I also think too, and actually, Sean, no, let's hear from you. What do you?
Well, I'll piggyback off of that and just say that I'm trying to think here. I have Apple, HBO, Netflix, and Disney. So
and Amazon because
I'm a Prime member. So that and Amazon is one of them things too where it's kind of like they throw that subscription in with your
You have
thing.
so much others tied to it.
Yeah, there's a lot of it. And for me, the Apple is the same way. There's nothing on Apple that I want to watch right now, but I subscribe to Apple One so that I get the music and the arcade and the bigger cloud
news
and the bigger iCloud storage.
I thought don't you get something more with
no,
news
I don't.
too?
I didn't pay extra for news.
Okay.
But you get TVs kind of wrapped up in the HBO. I'm not. I mean, I am paying for it, but it's wrapped into my AT&T.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have it
same.
if it wasn't wrapped into that.
Yeah.
So really, Netflix
Actually,
and
I
Disney
probably would just because HBO is the one that
they do have a lot
to
of
me,
good stuff.
Like
though.
Disney
I mean,
has
really.
a good back catalog,
and they're signing deals like the A24 deal.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like, at least they're still trying to get a lot of.
I've been really it's funny because when they first came out,
we were all bashing.
Yeah.
And they deserved it at that time because it was kind of a shoddy launch, but they really have stepped up their game. Yeah,
and they haven't raised their price yet.
Nope.
Which is what brings me to kind of with Netflix. If there was any of them that I would eliminate, it would end up being Netflix first. Not because they don't have as much content, but because it's one of those things where they have one or two shows to me that I will watch. When those shows are done, it's hit or miss on what good content they're going to have that I'm going to want to watch.
Well, we have you on record on this show saying multiple times that Netflix would never, ever be canceled.
They changed.
So I'm just thinking. I think that, but to me,
I agree with Sean.
If they raised the price again,
well,
then,
I was going to say,
again,
if I were a Netflix
investor,
investor, to hear you go from never, ever, that'll be the one true, it's always been around. It was the first streamer. I'll always have it.
Yeah.
To maybe thinking about canceling, that's danger zone.
Yeah.
That's crap. They need
because
to be worried.
It's getting too expensive, and I'm not getting anything in return. Or I'm not getting enough in return. And I'll finish my opinion up with this. It's like when I watch a show, I can't watch. This is normally what me and my wife do. We'll pick a show. That's what we're going to watch until it's over. We don't watch. Usually, we may have maybe two shows going at once where it's like, tonight we'll watch this.
Yeah.
Tonight we're watching Only Murders in the Building. Tomorrow we're watching The Terminal List.
Because
so
it's drama comedy.
Yeah, something. We'll mix it up or whatever. But
I usually run a couple, but not a lot.
But I'm just saying. So there's nothing on Disney that we're watching right now. So we're watching Hulu. Oh, shoot, I forgot about Hulu. I got that too.
I got Hulu.
So we're watching Hulu and Amazon. And it's like, so then there's Netflix and Disney that are just sitting there for a good 4 or 5 weeks that we're not watching anything.
Right.
Hulu
so
and
it's
Amazon,
just like,
who's I've been on for the last
month. But the
month.
thing is like I'm really bad about
Amazon.
I don't want to cancel it and then restart it when something good comes on. It's just like I keep it because it's like if Sawyer wants to watch The Little Mermaid, then there you go. I don't have that on DVD. I don't have the Blu-ray of that.
Yeah.
So it's like the Disney has me for the classics. I don't really give a crap
and
about any of their new stuff.
And the kids.
Yeah, but the kids, but I'm just saying the kids watch the classics. I don't let them watch anything
Disney's
new.
silver bullet. is like the kids stuff. Yeah, that they know that they're going to have parents
and that's
suckered into it.
But no, I agree with Sean. Netflix has become the one I watched the least. I mean, I was done with
all
them
I'm
after
watching
Dark
right
Crystal,
now is I'm watching Stranger Things, catching up with that.
No, that's
and
what
it's like when that's over, I don't know. I don't know what
Stranger
I'm gonna
Things
watch.
and The Witcher are like the only two shows on there, and it's like once
Witcher's next year.
Yeah, and that's and the new season of Stranger Things isn't until the year after.
Every once in a while, they'll drop a movie.
They have Hustle. I really like.
And I mean, there's a gem like that, but
again, there's other ways
to
get
$20 a month.
We've even talked about this before. Aside, it's just that Netflix has this really bad habit, and maybe because they're going to have to tighten the reins a little bit because of how much they're bleeding in terms of subscriber loss. But it's like there was this habit of they had all this content, and it was like we even like praised them when we heard about it, but it was like a new either show or movie introduced every week. And I'm just like,
and half of them weren't worth crap.
No.
More than half.
Well, and so much of it was either bought from another country, and it was like, okay, fine, you're catering to a certain audience. Maybe it was like anime, which is a certain audience.
Well, they bought a bunch of Bollywood crap now.
I've seen.
Oh, they're buying up all kinds of stuff because now they're buying. They did the anime thing where they bought all the rights to air these animes. Well, now they're buying the rights to turn all of them into live action. I've read. Let's see, they're making a new Death Note, which is from the Stranger Things creator, so I am interested in that, actually. But they're doing that live action. One Piece, they just announced Yu Yu Hakusho. I'm sitting here thinking about they did Cowboy Bebop, which is a flop.
I'm like, it was a Death Note movie already.
They did, but it bombed and nobody liked it, so now they're going to make a series with the Duffer Brothers from Stranger Things.
Okay.
Because Netflix actually made the movie, too. Willem Dafoe did a voice for one of the...
and it wasn't good?
No.
Okay.
So it's just funny.
I actually thought of a great idea. Maybe this will be another
just buying up crap and throwing it at the wall and hoping somebody watches it.
Yeah, this will be another cool multimedia segment. But they need to create an app that literally you can go in and plug in all your subscription services that are month to month, like your credentials, and pick what months of the year you want certain subscriptions. And maybe all of them are all 12 months, but then some, and then it just automatically will end and renew your subscription. So then you don't have to manage it. Yeah. You just pick like, okay, I know these series are coming out. I'm going to go ahead and subscribe to Prime maybe Prime. I don't know if you do it month to month or I'm only going to do Netflix
yearly.
Yeah. Right. So it's like, but I think that would be a freaking amazing app if you just had it set up to just go through and like subscribe when you. If I had the money,
I do Prime annually, but I mean,
just gave away our $1 billion idea.
I did. I just threw it out there. It's for somebody out there. Y'all handle it. They probably already have it.
The Hulus.
Yeah. But we'll come at you 46 years later, like Rocky, and demand
give us
that we
a piece.
Want it back. Yeah,
we want it.
I want it for my children.
I want a piece of the puzzle.
Another thing that I think factors into this is not just cash value, but moral value.
Yeah.
And for me, I will be honest, because like you even brought it up with the Disney Plus, and. It's no secret here on the show that we name drop Daily Wire all the time. We've reviewed several of their movies.
Yeah, a few.
And I truly don't mind and love to support a company that at least is trying to push forward in the culture wars. And I throw my money to them each month, or I pay an annual subscription. But I'm happy that they're investing in content that I know is not going to push some kind of agenda that I disagree with.
Yeah.
And granted, I'm not beyond supporting other streaming services that I know have content that I've enjoyed either from the past.
I was going to say, according to Time Magazine, Netflix is getting pretty conservative now. You better watch out.
I was going to say, what's the Fat Camp show or something?
It's not a Fat Camp. It's called Snowflake Mountain.
Snowflake Mountain.
They take basically spoiled kids who've never had to face reality, and they put them in a survival situation with actual, like, I think they're ex-Marines, but they show them how to survive.
Yeah. Good.
And like
actually train them to be useful?
No, that's not good. Apparently it is very right-leaning, and Netflix is
because it points out how flawed
but here's the thing.
Everything is.
I think Netflix...
It was a ridiculous article.
Oh, yeah.
It was stupid.
I do think it's funny that... Not to read too much into the tea leaves, but it is funny that Netflix has had back-to-back subscription losses, massive subscription losses in the last 2 quarters, and yet they're starting to turn to content that they're like, well, maybe this will bring back some people that would actually watch our stuff and not just tune us out, because maybe those are the untapped markets that we haven't, that nobody's going after. Because obviously you've seen a massive shift again into the woke content on every platform. And I swear to you, the fact that I turn on Disney Plus and in the month of June they have a literal whole category for LGBTQ plus crap.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is absolutely absurd. Disney would be rolling over in his grave. This is not stuff you should be pushing for kids.
Yeah.
And you can't keep it out of, you can't keep it away from the masses or argue about it because, again, you'll be shouted down to death. And so I do have to say that at some point it will push so far that either, maybe not completely getting rid of a Disney Plus subscription because there is an entire back catalog that I know is safe. It'll be like I've seen you demonstrate with your kids, rightfully so, of saying, you're not going to watch that.
Yeah.
This has content in it that's not appropriate.
Yeah.
You can watch this.
What was the movie we just...
Zombies 3.
Zombies 3, yeah. Just happened while y'all were over at my house.
Yeah.
We had to, look up a movie on Common Sense Media or Parental Guide or whatever, and there, it tells you what scenes have
and you don't think
same-sex
that
stuff
other
in it.
parents...
And I'm like, yeah, you can't watch it. Sorry,
you don't
dude.
think other parents aren't doing that?
Oh,
Absolutely,
I know
they are. And so if it gets to the point where it's becoming a majority of that content versus pushing the...
That's when I'll lose Disney.
Right. And so, trust me, it's not. That's not out of the back of my mind.
Yeah.
I'm just... There's still enough there that is not the prevalent force. And it still will continue to be part of the culture war in terms of pushing, new content.
Yeah.
And how we have to fight that, and that's part of the reason why I do subscribe to something like Daily Wire.
Yeah.
But again,
and
even
I will
they
too
would admit,
when the content's there. That's my issue is I don't want to give them the money. I don't want to give them the money up front and not get anything in return because I don't read the news all the time. I don't care about I can listen to the podcasts for free. I don't care about the live stuff. When they have a WD Kids or DW Kids with a good enough content that's worth $12 a month, then I'll subscribe. Until they get that catalog, then I'm just not willing to cancel Disney and move over to them. And
Fair enough.
I can't afford another one. But the moment that they have some stuff that's comparable to the classic Disney stuff that I know is wholesome, I mean, if they produce it, I know it's going to be wholesome for my kids and my family to watch. I mean, it's like things like Terror on the Prairie and some of these other, they're extremely violent. They're only for adults, and they market it that way.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. They're not sitting there saying, oh, sit down and watch this with your family.
Right.
But, I know that content's coming next year or maybe even by the end of this year, and depending on what it has, available, that's when I'll start to make a shift. My problem is, I know what Disney has up front. I know what they're doing with their new crap that we're not watching, but I also know what they got in the back catalog, and it's worth $15 a month.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's my thing. Now, when there's too much new woke crap to where I agree with you 100%. When during June, as soon as you launched the app, it was a huge banner at the top of my Apple TV with Pride Month stuff. And it's just like when it's to the point where we can't even navigate to find the classic material
without first having to
see
this.
that's when I'm like, no, yep. I'm done. And it's getting to that point. It's just I'm not at the boiling point yet.
Well, and I think too we're all kind of, easily
Stranger Things even is going in that direction.
Don't spoil
and
that.
I'm just
I don't want to know. I need to watch, but I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to discuss that.
Sorry.
Because I have.
I thought you've seen it. Okay.
No, he's not seen any. Only season 1 and half of 2.
Okay.
Yeah, not even half of 2, like 2 episodes. So
season 3 is
I'm a late
legit.
bloomer. So yeah, I'll get there.
All right.
But I here's the other thing too is I think some people would say, oh, you're dancing around, you're not fully invested. Because I think there's also people on our side of the aisle who maybe cut the cord too soon. And granted, everybody has their right to do so. If they have a threshold that once it meets it, they're done. Mm-hmm. But I also think too that it's also part of the blowback and part of the culture wars to not just give up. It's not to just say, I'm done completely engaging at all. I think part of it is engaging to the point of pushing back to see, again, Thor losing at the box office and not championing it because it's a failure and screw the corporate, the corporate assholes. Yeah. It's like, no, it's a failure because of the messages it's trying to push. And like you said, when the companies are so belligerently in denial about why something is failing, it just proves to you that they're not willing to listen. And at least that's where I can applaud Netflix saying, hey, look, if we're losing subscribers hand over fist and we're one of the highest priced tiered subscription services, we got to compete in all fronts.
Yeah.
And we're going to start going. And if that means standing up for Dave Chappelle and keeping these Comedy Central specials, Ricky Gervais, it's like, to me,
Snowflake Mountain.
They're the only ones. They, sadly, it's funny, but I would have thought they would have been the last ones to be in this arena. And they're one of the first ones to show up and say, no.
Well,
art is subjective. We're going to create a platform for all kinds to come to. And at the end of the day, I think a majority of your base of people who just want to turn on something that engages them and entertains them, they're going to be looking for that.
That's what actually I find funny about Netflix is it's not even that like with the Time article that's kind of accusing them of like making this about face and now trying to appease the right. They're still making the same woke shows they were making.
Absolutely.
It's just they're making content that the other side might enjoy now too. And honestly, what's wrong with having both? Like obviously they're as a platform are saying we want to make content that for anyone. Yeah. It's like and that's maybe to their detriment as they're spending money on all kinds of outlandish things. But literally, it's like, they have Korean shows, Bollywood. Now they have things that the far left will like, the far right. It's like they're literally making content that anybody, like almost anybody, can enjoy. And maybe they should slow down a little bit because they're spending so much money.
But at some point, the business angle has to be, well, if and forgive me for saying this, but if we're making all of this content for 7.1% of the U.S. population, and it's not making us any money, then let's dial that down and push the money in this direction.
That's why I think the Polygon article regarding Thor and how it didn't go queer enough, I'm like, you realize
you're pandering to less than 10% of people.
If you did go full woke and go full queer in the direction they were pushing for and what the woke crowd, because that's the thing, they don't want a platform that even caters to both sides. They want to say that this side over here doesn't deserve a platform, that they're sick, they're terrible Nazi individuals that need not given any kind of entertainment. You don't need to cater to them. And yet that's not this common sense, right way of thinking in general, or even libertarian type of thinking of, hey, why don't you just have content that appeases whatever your audience is? Give a platform to it. They want to go full bore into their ideology and give no platform to the other. And it's like, okay, like you said, Sean, that's gonna catch up to you. Yeah. And I'm sorry, but the platforms that are willing to go down that road, I'm definitely not going to spend my money there. Yeah. And I don't think we're to the point of it being so bad that is the case. That's why I will support Daily Wires, because I do want them to get to that upper echelon of having that content.
And there's other content they already have that you're interested in too, though.
Right.
And you wouldn't just be handing them a check for something you might get 2 years from now.
Right.
Or a year from now. You already have something that you're consuming.
They have provided me enough already entertainment-wise, but also enough in the news genre that I want to consume that and continue to support them. But at the same time, it's like if Disney does continue to peddle the nonsense wokeness that they do, and they keep doing it their own detriment, then eventually it'll get to the point of saying it's not even worth the back catalog.
Yeah, when it's not safe for my kids, then that's when I have to go. It's about my kids.
Well, if I have to deliberately go to Vudu and say I'll buy these movies individually that Disney offers because this is the content I want Disney to either create or focus on, then that's the way I'll do it. I'll send the message that way. It's like I'll buy the Disney stuff that I know is safe, that I know never push this message, in spite of trying to support, because that's what they're doing. Most of these subscription services are just taking the money that they get from the content that people consume, and then that's why do you think people
all of the other stuff's already paid for? I get that. Yes. Yeah, it's old, it's paid for. They're pushing it.
And why do you think people have been pissed at Netflix for not support or representing their numbers of what certain pieces of content view? They'll say, "Oh, this has been watched billions of times or billions of minutes," and of course we know something like Stranger Things is hugely successful. Yeah, but they're not going to give you the per household individual number. Because even if they had that metric and they were calculating it, they don't want it to somehow be dwarfed by something else that some other competition could come in and present. Yeah. So trust me, Disney's not going to put out, this LGBTQ crap, only 2% of our audience actually consume it.
Everybody else is watching the classic Disney films.
But it's supported by all the people subscribing for the classic stuff. Because what does that do? It further alienates that crowd. And that's why I think it's so astronomically asinine about somebody like who would write the Polygon article about Thor. I'm like, if you really came down to looking at the facts and you saw that a majority of the people who went to go see this film didn't have anything or want anything to do with the woke messaging, then you would ultimately be upset because not enough people support what you consider a worthy cause. So it's like, sorry, but that's just plain Jane the simple truth.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but when reality has to hit you upside the head, that's just the fact of the matter, and you're going to have to live with it. Alrighty, guys. I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast.
It's going to do it.
It's already done it.
Just do it.
We did it.
Do it.
All right, Nike.
No, we don't support Nike.
Do it.
It's not Nike.
What is it?
Palpatine.
Do it.
When he tells him to cut his head off. He says,
You
do
have
it.
lost.
No, it's the Dooku
Ultimate
scene when
power.
Anakin has him with the head, and he's just like, do it. And he cuts his head off.
Oh, that's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
That's
Do
right. Dooku. That's
Dooku,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
The beginning of 3.
Do it.
Do it. Do it. Alrighty, guys. That's it for this episode. Right there at the bottom of your screen, all of our social links. Red Moon
Still
Book,
not working.
Red Moon Tweet, Red Moon Vixen, search for redmoonproductions.com. I disabled it because you just...
It's dead.
Yep.
It's dead.
You don't deserve it.
You broke it.
Search for us, like, share, subscribe. We appreciate all the support. And, of course, there's always that old-fashioned way of reaching out to us. That is called email. Email us at rmpodcast@redmoonproductions.com.
You don't want to go super old-fashioned and do actual paper mail? Just give everybody your address?
No.
No.
If I had a P.O. box,
yeah,
maybe.
we could set one of those.
No,
up.
I'm gonna give everybody your address so they can
Probably
mail
get
us.
anthrax from all the conservative talk we have.
That's it.
They'll just somebody will send us some anthrax.
And they'll be like, only people deal with anthrax are Republicans. They hate you. Ha ha ha. Not me, my wokeness. I would never hurt anybody.
Oh, we should definitely mention that Neil had a birthday.
He did.
Oh,
He
we
did.
should mention that Keith
They
had
had
a
an
birthday.
anniversary too.
Yeah.
Keith had a
It was
birthday.
his
Yeah.
birthday
Oh.
last week on Tuesday.
Yeah.
No one mentioned it.
Sorry.
Nobody loves me.
I'm sorry, Keith.
Yeah. Neil had a birthday though.
Your birthday is their
People have
anniversary.
birthdays. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, it is. Same day.
It's crazy. The anniversary and then his
best
birthday.
birthday present
birthday
you could have got.
it was.
Someone
It was
else getting
great.
married.
He
Yeah.
said, "Well, he made me a groomsman."
I know.
Well,
So,
and to be fair, I mean, Neil did ask. He said,
did.
"Is it okay?" And Keith said, "No."
I did, and he
And
did
Neil
it anyway. Yeah.
It's terrible. Just terrible.
I sent cards by Rick mail,
Oh wow.
Ooh,
which is even better than email.
I thought
Yeah.
that was slow
It's
mail.
hand delivered by Rick.
Snail mail.
I've seen all the Facebook posts.
No, I didn't even put a stamp on
You
it.
know.
So it's
Ooh.
just a completely
You can-
different kind of mail. You
It
just,
knows where it's going.
It does.
If you ever want to know what anybody's ever doing, you can always rely on Rick to keep you updated.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
He'll check in.
I've seen the Facebook posts.
Yeah.
So I do enjoy it though. It's fun to see all their adventures. So Brandon's parents don't do that. He was sharing me with their adventures,
Well,
but through
they
text.
don't- Yeah, they
I can't
text the
I can't
family.
watch their adventures
No.
on Facebook.
No, my mom doesn't get on there. My dad
Yeah.
doesn't. I don't think they have it anymore.
Yeah.
Because my dad.
I know
kept
your
getting
dad
hacked.
used to, but yeah, I
He
don't
used
know
to
that your
keep
mom
in
ever
touch
did.
with some other members of the family, and now he's just like,
Yeah.
we don't even have it.
I'm
So they
telling
just
you,
got rid
man,
of
I'm
it.
getting rid of it. Oculus is getting ready to change their policies to where you can log in without a Facebook account. I'm deleting it.
Getting rid of Facebook.
My only issue with that is I don't think I'll be able to post to the Red Moon.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
So,
You'd have to create.
I'm gonna try to figure it out.
Yeah, I don't think you can have a.
Mm.
You wouldn't be able to have any kind of posting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you'd have to have some kind of
See,
profile.
my parents don't,
Don't
share
be
their
surprised
adventures
if you're-
either.
if
They
you're
just
on my
share
friends
the,
list, you might
if you
not
don't
see
like
anything.
this, then all the. If you love God, like this, that's stuff.
Oh, they share everything.
Everything. Oh,
Some of
Yeah.
the things are so good. I think I'm like, oh my God, Roger wrote that,
Yeah.
and then I read it, and then it gets to the end,
Yeah.
and
It's
I'm
like,
like,
please share this post.
share this
I know.
I don't ever. I don't share any. People will tag me and
Yeah.
stuff, and I'm like, I don't share things.
Dude, that used to be chain. Y'all remember
It's-
chainmail?
Oh yeah.
Back in the
well,
day.
those were different.
Oh, my
those were like if you don't
gosh.
if you don't share this, then the devil will come in your room at midnight and
Yes.
kill you. Those were a little different. Yeah.
I mean, I
better
always
believe you shared them.
I always had the ones like share this and
I didn't do it back
10
then
of your
either.
wishes will come true.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I did try that in middle school.
Yeah.
It didn't happen,
No.
and that's when I stopped sharing things.
That was it. Alrighty, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. Tune in next
MySpace.
week for our review of Nope. So
Nope.
until next time, thank you all so
Nope.
much for joining us.
Yep. To the Red Moon Podcast.
I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host.
Sean Sebastian.
And
Hey.
what that was supposed to be.
Does it have to be anything?
Turtles having sex.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.